Hello and welcome back to the Not the Old Firm YouTube channel. My name is Ben Banks, back with James Black to preview another weekend of Scottish football action. The final week of Premiership only action for Scottish football. We've obviously got the Scotland national team games next week, but we've also got the League Cup to look forward to as well in between all that. So plenty of football next week, but in the meantime, we've got the Premiership to look forward to. 4 games on the Friday, games that were initially scheduled there to help the national team prepare for next Thursday's big Euro playoff game against Israel, but European involvement for 2 sides from Scotland means that games are over the weekend as well. So we've got 4 on the Friday, 2 on the Sunday. The 4 on the Friday are as follows. We've got Aberdeen St Mirren, Dundee United Livingston, Hibernian versus Hamilton, Kilmarnock versus Motherwell, and on the Sunday, St Johnstone host Celtic and Rangers host Ross County. So plenty of action. We'll get started in chronological order, starting on the Friday with Aberdeen St Mirren. St Mirren have had interests around their captain, Kyle McGuinness. Hibs were interested and had bids put in for the captain around about 75k mark. Reports had that at. They've rejected 2 bids from it, and Jim Goodwin has spoken about the interest, saying he was quite pleased with the ambition St Mirren have shown to reject the substantial offer.
I've had constant dialogue with McGuinness and just made him aware of how important a player he is to us and how desperate we are to get him back in the team. Of course, it's always flattering when a team the size of Hibs shows an interest, but Kyle is just returning from a serious knee injury. We have invested a lot of time, money on surgery, and he's been getting the best of physio here with Kevin Bain as well. So we've been working really hard to get him back in the squad and back into the starting 11. And I think it would be wrong of us now at this moment in time to accept any bid for him. As far as I'm aware, there's been 2, unless there has been one put in this morning while we were training that I'm not aware of. Then I don't know, but I've been told that there has been 2 bids made. So, look, we haven't even marketed Kyle, as a club. There's one club at the moment who's showing an interest, and it's Hibs. I know that there are other managers out there, not just in our own league in Scotland, but I've spoken to people there in England as well in the last kind of 6 months. Everybody is asking, how McGuinness is getting on, how's he making progress with his injury. So if we were desperate to sell, I think it would be foolish of us to accept, the first couple of bids from only one party. I think the sensible thing for us to do if we had to sell would be to make clubs aware that we are looking to sell him, and that way we would generate more interest and obviously have a number of teams competing for his signature as opposed to just the one at the moment.
Be a tough test for St Mirren, but obviously they don't want to be losing their captain before it.
No, that would be a big blow. A really weird one, this as well. Because for some teams, they've got a break. Other teams, it's going to be business as usual after this round of games. It's weird. St Mirren's in a position right now where they can afford to be losing such important players. Especially not like Hibs, who just seem to kind of take anybody that comes through and Paisley, and they kind of start having a bit of decent form. Hibs seem to snatch them at some point. So yeah, it would be, they couldn't afford to lose McGuinness. They need to be getting a good run of games going, start putting some results together. Because their last few have really left them in the mire a little bit.
And I think that's what Jim Goodwin was saying, really. They're in a 5-game run. The last thing they need to do for the fan base is then lose the captain. And I know Kyle McGuinness hasn't really played much football at all this season after his ACL injury, but it's well documented how big a player he is for them and how big a player he will go on to be. Probably Scotland have got so many talented young Scottish midfielders just now, but he's probably one of the ones highly rated in that bracket, which says all about him. And he'll go to the English Championship down south one day, I believe, and perhaps Hibs could have been a step up for him at the moment, arguably, but St Mirren have shown a bit of ambition to keep him from going to Jack Ross's side, who are like building St Mirren FC over in Leith. The amount of ex-buddies that are over there, both on the playing side of things and the coaching staff, is just completely surreal. But speaking about former players, Joe Shaughnessy was also speaking ahead of this game. Former Aberdeen man himself, he's back in Scotland this year with the Buddies, and he's looking forward to returning to the club that he started his career with.
I enjoy going up there. I enjoyed my time there. I still know a few of the staff and players that are there, so it's a nice place to go up, and it'll make it sweeter than to go there and get a result kind of thing. I enjoyed it. I like the style of play up here, and I enjoy the league. It would be much better, if the fans were allowed in, but that's probably a different story. So, but it's been nice to get back into it, and I'm looking forward to the season.
Dundee United Livingston is next to look at. Dundee United, the frustrating one for them last weekend against Hamilton, and Livingston going to this buoyed by the signing of J. Emmanuel Thomas, who has the best name on the back of his shirt in the entire Premiership. I'm gutted, and I know it's already been said. I know I'm stealing somebody.
Get it in the bin.
What is it?
Get it in the bin.
I know I'm stealing somebody's pattern, but they really should have made him number 2 instead of Jet 2. That'd been brilliant. Do you not agree with? Do you not like Jet on the back of his top?
No.
What's your reason? I need more than just no.
Everything. It's ridiculous. See if he was at least. He's not even got a brand, man. Like, with the greatest of respect to Livingston, he's some dude. Sorry, he signed on loan, has he? So a short.
No, he signed on a 1-year deal. He had been in Thailand, I believe.
Right. So I mean, we're not talking some guy who's going to come in here and sell thousands upon thousands of shirts with his name emblazoned in the back of it. Like, just.
Anyway, about the game. Looking at his track record, I mean, he was once I think probably journeyman, 29. I think this is his 11th club, so he has had a fair few clubs. Is 11 clubs enough to justify journeyman in age? I don't. But he had a really prolific spell at Bristol City. He's scored lots of goals in the Championship, but he's obviously been in Thailand. I don't actually think he's played for all that long. So if they can get the sort of form we showed at Bristol City out of him, then they've got an absolutely brilliant player. The one that managed to break through at Arsenal under Arsene Wenger, then get some of that type of talent out of him, then they'll be on to a winner. But it's just a case with these type of signings, isn't it? It's whether you can actually get that from him.
Said that enough. We need to get this whole London Dyke shaped hole filled quickly. Whether he's going to be the man will be interesting to see, but yeah, it's a decent enough signing for them. Barring his ridiculous name in the back of his shirt.
And Lawrence Shankland as well looks likely to be staying at Dundee United on the opposite striker front. And it's a reunion for these teams, the first time they've played since the Premiership playoff game back in 2018, I believe, when Livingston obviously got promoted to the Premiership. So it'll be a nice one for them to go back to Tannadice after probably one of the most memorable nights in their history. Right, looking at the next game, Hibs versus Accies. Accies hit with a positive COVID test before this game. Another bit of trouble for them, really. They've had a bit of bad luck with COVID. They had obviously positive tests a few weeks ago as well. Hibs, they've been quite busy on the transfer front in terms of putting bids in, reported interest. Obviously, Kel McGuinness has already spoken about as one that has been formally named as interest from Hibs. And there's also been speculation surrounding Motherwell's Alan Campbell. Hibs are interested in a player, so are Aberdeen. So Hibs and Aberdeen are the two teams that are set to be looking at Alan Campbell. But more on that later. Looking at the game on Friday night, Hibs coming into it off the back of a pretty poor performance result-wise. At Celtic Park, losing 3-0, decent in the first half, but could have improved in the second. And Hamilton, is it a free hit going to Easter Road for Brian Rice?
There's no free hits for Accies now, and it's not Rangers or Celtic. They need to go there and look to take something from Hibs, and it's a big test for Hibs, this one. And that after losing at Celtic, there's a real risk the wheels can come off a little bit. I know the previous two games were Celtic away and then Rangers at home, but to come out of 3 games with potentially only 1 point, that kills off any faint hope that they have. They actually, for me at least, that actually going on and pushing Rangers and Celtic this season. So they need to get a win, and I think they need to get a comfortable one. Accies, again, it's that whole thing with Aki, isn't it? Though you can't get rid of them.
No. Obviously, Brian, former coach at Hibs, there's a wee bit of connection there for him, but he's well aware of the task at hand for them. Hibs will be, I'd even go as far to say big favourites, given the way Hibs have played against sort of bottom six teams, especially this season. I mean, they've put teams to the sword a couple of times, St Mirren and Livingston, namely away from home, really giving them a bit of a doing both times. But it'll be interesting. I mean, it's weird for these teams as well. Like, as you say, with the League Cup next week, like, there's not really any rest for them. I think Hamilton have got Annan away on Tuesday and Hibs have got Brora Rangers on the Wednesday. So there's not even that time of we've got the international break. It's a good result heading into it. There's games pretty much every 3 or 4 days now for the foreseeable. But looking at the next game, Kilmarnock versus Motherwell, plenty of talking points in this one in the build-up for both these teams. Kilmarnock have 3 positive COVID-19 tests, which means Alex Dyerside will probably be limited in their team selection for tomorrow's game. Motherwell, again, we've already mentioned Alan Campbell, interest from Aberdeen and Hibs, and assistant manager Keith Lasley was speaking to the press ahead of the trip to Rugby Park. And whilst he knows that Alan Campbell is destined for big things, he hopes he's in claret and amber for a wee while longer.
Yeah, you know, as there is with good young players across the country, and Alan's certainly high up the list on that. He's, you know, I think everybody at the club you've heard, I'm sure, wax lyrical about Alan, and rightly so. He's a fantastic young player, and it's what we do at this football club. Hopefully, is try and promote our own talent, and then when the time's right, they maybe move on. But you know, we're in talks with Alan. We'd love him to stay. But you know, if that time comes that he does move on, then you know, so be it. It'll be good. Hopefully, it'll be right for the player. It'll be right for the club. But first and foremost, we want Alan in a Motherwell jersey for as long as we can. And you know, I know we're still talking to the player. So. No. I mean, as I say, he's a coach and somebody that loves having him at the club. I'm hopeful. You know, I know Alan's loving his football. He loves the club. He loves pulling on that jersey and playing for the club. So. Listen, as always in football at any club, if you've got an asset and you know a big offer comes in that the club can't turn down, as we saw with David, you know it does happen. But you know we are first focused on Alan, as I said, playing for Motherwell in the short term, and who knows, you know, hopefully that can be in the long term as well. But as I said, that's probably out of our control. Yeah, certainly from in here, we've always, I think from outside, as you say, possibly, there's maybe had a little bit more focus. He's had a couple more goals to his game, which I think always brings a little bit more prominence in the press, but certainly of how we value him. And I think people within the game that know the game, they see a player with real determination to be the best they can be. And you know, I've spoken before, it's not always the case these days, you know, to have a young guy with that head and shoulders to it's a talent, a special talent to, you know, every day constantly, you know, get the best out of yourself, and that's what that boy's doing. And I've got no doubt the sky's the limit for him, just down to that fact. You know, I think he's always improving, but that attitude is not the norm now, and it's certainly unique. And he's somebody that is to me has shown the determination that can go to the top, and you know, I'll certainly hope he does.
Well, with Alan Campbell's contract being up in May, I believe, and I think the compensation fee, if he was to sign a pre-contract with somebody in January, is £200,000. If somebody manages to get Alan Campbell for £200,000 in this climate, then it's the deal of next summer. If somebody manages to pull that off, if somebody manages to get him for a cut price deal in this window, which in my opinion I don't believe will happen, but I mean, Aberdeen and Hibs, whilst they're big teams, it'd be a decent move for Alan Campbell. I think the English Championship or abroad is where he should be looking.
If Alan Campbell joins Hibs or Aberdeen, it's a travesty. I'm sorry, but if that's his next move, it's a sideways move. And with the greatest respect to Hibs and with the greatest respect to Aberdeen, they're not going to go on, and I don't see either club going on and challenging for a title anytime soon. So I don't know, I might be wrong in that one, but I don't know. Maybe just a hunch here that Aberdeen or Hibs going to be title challengers, or title winner, even less likely. whether they can compete for trophies regularly, is that really worth giving up the chance to go and play top end championship, maybe even get a club that's got real Premier League ambitions, or maybe even a Rangers or a Celtic? If he moves to another Scottish Premiership club out with the old firm, it's just a sideways move. So, yeah.
I think undoubted just how good he is. He's shown it this season, I think, but that's not a surprise to me, at least. For 2 or 3 seasons now, at least, he's probably been Mull's main midfielder in terms of, especially over the last 2 seasons, in terms of breaking up play and things like that. And I think, as you're saying, I mean, Aberdeen, it wouldn't be a bad move. It wouldn't be
No, it wouldn't be a career-ending move. It's going to turn him from being Scotland's great white hope to suddenly being a flop. But at the same time, his career's not going to kick on to that next level by basically moving to a club where ambitions are largely the same, where the quality of teammate is, again, it's largely the same. Aberdeen or Hibs aren't a team who are head and shoulders above Motherwell. Coaching wise, is he going to work? Would he be moving away to work with particularly better coaches at Easter Road or Pittodrie than he is just now at Motherwell? It's a sideways move.
I think
nobody
as well,
can convince me otherwise. The only reason I can understand why he would move to Hibs or Aberdeen would be if it's a purely financial move, because it would be the only logical explanation.
I think as well, I mean, I know the obvious one for Scottish talent is to just say, move down to the English Championship or bottom end of the Premier League. But I think abroad as well is a move that could work.
Yeah, absolutely. I think most Scottish players should go abroad, especially at that age where it's kind of late teens, early 20s. Absolutely.
But in the meantime, he's a model player, and they'll obviously be keen to keep him in the short term at least. He's not going to be, I mean, I've said in previous episodes, I think he'll be a Premier League player, or at least in one of Europe's top 5 leagues by the age of 25. I think he is that good, and he will eventually go there. Does a Hibs or Aberdeen necessarily get him there quicker? Don't know, but I think from the signals coming out of Fir Park is that he'll still be a Motherwell player come next week's transfer deadline, and it'll be then left. There's a contract offer on the table for him at Motherwell, and then it'll remain to be seen whether he signs that or whether he waits to January and sees sort of what's out there for him. Just on this game as well, Kilmarnock's obviously a big talking point in their 3 positive tests. We've seen how that affected St Mirren, recently, albeit in different circumstances, because it was their goalkeeper department, and it affected Hamilton a few weeks ago as well when they lost a few first team players and were unavailable for selection one weekend. So obviously we hope everyone associated with those cases gets well, and hopefully it's asymptomatic, but Alex Dyer will also be hoping it's nobody too serious in terms of his first team plans.
Yeah, so it's bound to be a big blow, that, especially with so many games coming up. It's not as if, and I don't want to kind of sound flippant here, but it's not as if Kelly can just go, well, we've got this weekend's game to get through, and then there's international breaks and right into League Cup action against Falkirk next Tuesday night. So it's a right quick turnaround for them. So yeah, there's, from Alex Dyer's point of view, he's going to want to hope that, first of all, whoever it is that's tested positive isn't showing any symptoms or anything, but secondly, that yeah, it's not somebody who has a key role in his first team squad.
Mm-hmm. Looking at the Sunday fixtures, it's St Johnstone versus Celtic and Rangers versus Ross County. Look at St Johnstone Celtic first. St Johnstone's struggles in front of goal have been I've been apparent. I'll cut you off before you start slating the Saints, but I mean, as you say, I mean, it's going to be a really tough ask for them. They need to score, and I mean, against Celtic, chances are they are going to score at least 1 or 2, so the onus is on you to score 2 or 3. St Johnstone haven't scored in a lot of games now, and they just need something of positive nature from this. But against Celtic, that's so difficult.
It's going to be a cricket score. And I said it before, St Johnstone are just they're plodding along, and despite it being so early in the season, they already look like relegation candidates, relegation favourites most likely. Which, no, I said before, going for consistency when they replaced Tommy Wright was the right thing to do, but again, with every passing game, it's getting closer and closer to the point where they need to do something drastic, whether that just kind of throwing caution to the wind and doing something drastic on the pitch or changing the management, I don't know, but something needs to give soon.
Aye. It's odd with this week because obviously they've got Celtic and you probably wouldn't expect for that. I mean, not saying teams, you go in every game to win. It's the given. But teams probably do budget that they probably won't get many points for these type of games. But if you look at their League Cup games next week, they've got Celtic Hearts away and Beacon City. Now, they should really be winning those games against a Lowland League side, albeit Celtic Hearts are fairly strong for the Lowland League and the types of players they've recruited, and they've got Brecon City, who were the worst team in the SPFL at McDermott Park. But they really could be doing with some slight confidence booster going into those games, because say if they go a goal down early or it's 0-0 after 20-25 minutes in those games, all of a sudden it gets very, very nervy.
Yeah, it's a slippery slope, isn't it? When they're not scoring, they're not winning, they're not doing very much of anything really. So the longer that goes on, you find yourself in a position where you're playing teams like Kelty and Beacon and start getting a bit nervy. So God knows what it's going to be like for them against Celtic.
And the last game we're going to look at is Rangers versus Ross County. And before this game, we caught up with a former Rangers player and a former Staggy as well. The full interview will be available soon on our YouTube channel and on our website. But for the meantime, here's a wee clip from what you can expect.
It's been good. I've enjoyed it. I've played every minute in the competitive game, so that's what also I wanted as a player. And the boys have made me feel really welcome, and obviously the staff and stuff like that. And yeah, I'm really enjoying it so far. Yeah, I think I was just really my agent and stuff. I think there was a bit of slight interest when I was at Ross County. It was a year ago. Nothing happened with it, and then obviously COVID it took a bit longer to get through the line, but then obviously it came in, and then I was happy to come down here. Obviously, I had Neil McCann there, obviously great coach. He'd done a lot for me. Obviously Jim Jeffries as well and John Potter and stuff. So they really helped me, and I was right in the first team there, for 17 onwards, and that pushed me in good stead. And obviously taking a bit of a blip when Alan Johnson came in, and I don't know really what happened there to this day. Just didn't really fancy me, to be honest. And I got loaned out to Brecon and stuff like that. And then I kind of got a bit of a lifeline. I was actually going to go into part-time football with Brecon, and obviously Neil McCann got the Dundee job and gave me a season up there, which I was obviously grateful for, because it was a step up for Dunfermline to not playing for a couple of years really to SPL, but that's where I wanted to be.
That was former Ross County midfielder and a former Rangers Pro Academy player Lewis Spence talking to Not the Old Firm. As I already said, it'll be available soon on the channel, and we're sure you will enjoy that one. In terms of the game on Sunday, Ross County again, difficult performance from them last Sunday. Doesn't really get any easier at Ibrox, despite the fact Rangers could be. I mean, by the time this is out, we'll know whether Rangers progress past Galatasaray in the Europa League. So they'll either be coming into the game on a massive high or a massive low.
Yeah, but I think we should be able to kind of put Europe to one side. They've shown enough in the past that they are fairly adept at that. So yeah, I wouldn't kind of have too many concerns on that from Rangers' perspective. For Ross County, it's all about the performance. I know that we're getting to the point where getting points on the board really start to matter, but County's had a really good start to the season. A little bit of slump recent weeks, so just getting that performance level back and just competing with Rangers. It's a decent enough night for them. I don't see them coming away from Ibrox with anything, but a decent performance would be enough.
It's the one thing Stuart Kettle will be looking for, because I think in pretty much all of his tests against the Old Firm, they've been given a pretty sore beating pretty much most times. So he'll be looking for an improvement on that, and even if they can even keep in, I mean, it sounds really pessimistic speaking like that, but even if they can keep in the game for most of the game, then they'll be doing fairly well, because as Rangers showed last week against Motherwell, against sort of teams outside of Hibs, Aberdeen, they do have that ability to just completely pull away from the opposition despite their test and run. But an interesting one for Ross County. They've got nothing to lose. It's not a situation like St Johnstone where they actually could be doing with points for this game regardless of opposition. They can sort of go into this game knowing that they're fairly enough points away from the bottom at this stage to be worrying about any of that, and they can go in and just look to give a decent performance. But that is all we've got time for just now. Hope you have enjoyed. We'll have reviews of the action over the weekend as well after they've been played out. We had an exclusive interview with Kieran Bowie, moved to Fulham in the summer following a good spell at Wraith Rovers as a teenager, and that's available on the channel now. We also held a discussion with two SPFL directors from Clyde and Stenhousemuir. We thank them for their participation. That is also on the channel if you care about the impact of no fans on the lower leagues in Scottish football. But until next time, take it easy.